to a big relief for many people with Anthem insurance in Missouri. An agreement has been reached between the company and Mercy, and it happened just before an important deadline. Chris Bryant joins us live in our newsroom with the last-minute deal. Chris?
Good morning, Lee. Earlier this year, Anthem received notice from Mercy that Mercy would be ending their contract as an in-network provider with Anthem starting on January 1st of 2025. Both sides claimed that the other was working and negotiating in bad faith throughout the entire process while they worked towards that new deal. Now, last night, Missouri State Representative LaDonna Applebaum out of St. Louis shared a statement that said, "I am grateful Anthem and Mercy were able to come to an agreement that will provide Missourians with the care they need. The insurance provider process is complicated, and I am pleased that this got done without interruption to critical care." Now, then again, this morning, official word from Mercy and Anthem on the new contract was released in a joint statement that the two said that Mercy and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield of Missouri have reached a new multi-year agreement providing Anthem members with continued access to affordable, high-quality care at all Mercy hospitals, outpatient care centers, and physician offices across Missouri. Other state lawmakers are speaking out about the agreement. Republican Jamie Gregg, who represents the 140th District in Christian County, told me, with Anthem being one of the state's largest insurers, this ensures many individuals and families will continue to have access to their trusted health care providers, including specialists. Long-term relationships with physicians can play a crucial role in maintaining continuity of care and avoiding disruption of having to find new doctors or insurance options is a relief to many. Republican Willard Haley, who represents the 58th District, said this development will definitely put Mercy Health patients at ease. This timely announcement will mean that these patients may continue with their current health care without paying out-of-network charges or changing doctors. Democrat Stephanie Hines out of Springfield, the 136th District, said the agreement between Mercy and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield is important for our community, ensuring uninterrupted access to critical health care services. This resolution provides peace of mind to patients and families and reflects a shared commitment of supporting health and well-being in Springfield and beyond. I appreciate the efforts of both organizations in reaching this resolution. I reached out to both Mercy and Anthem this morning for an interview regarding the agreement. Anthem said that they would only be relying, well, they would say was in that release from this morning, and Mercy said they would not be doing any interviews this week about the negotiation. We have all this information inside this story at KY3.com. For now in the newsroom, Chris Bryant, KY3 News.